Columbia Gym, Louisville, Kentucky. October 1954. A skinny 12-year-old black boy bursts through the doors, tears streaming down his face, fists clenched in rage. "Somebody stole my bike," he shouts to anyone who'll listen. "I'm gonna find him and whoop him good." The gym falls silent. Grown men stop punching bags. They look at this kid, all 89 pounds of him, talking about fighting. Then a voice calls out from the corner. "Son, you better learn how to box before you go around threatening to whoop anybody." The voice belongs to Joe Martin, a Louisville police officer. And in that moment, without knowing it, he's just discovered the greatest fighter who ever lived. Let's back up 2 weeks. October 1954. Louisville, Kentucky. The West End. A neighborhood where dreams come cheap and hope comes hard. Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. That's his real name. Just turned 12 years old, and for his birthday, his father did something extraordinary. He bought his son a bicycle. Not just any bicycle, a brand new red and white Schwinn. Chrome handlebars, white wall tires, the works, cost $60. That's more than Cassius Clay Sr. made in a week painting signs in houses. But he wanted to give his boy something special, something to be proud of. And Cassius was proud. More than proud, he was obsessed. Every day after school, he'd ride that bike around the neighborhood, showing it off, racing other kids, taking care of it like it was made of gold. His mother, Odessa, would watch from the porch. "That boy loves that bicycle more than anything in this world," she'd tell the neighbors. She was right. For a poor black kid in 1950s Louisville, that bicycle represented something powerful. Freedom, status, a way to escape, even if just for a few hours, the limitations of his world. But there was something else about young Cassius that made that bicycle special. He was small, skinny, 89 pounds soaking wet. In a neighborhood where being tough mattered, where you had to fight to survive, Cassius was more likely to run than fight. He wasn't a fighter, he was a talker. Even at 12, he had a mouth on him, always bragging, always boasting, always claiming he was the greatest at this or that. But when push came to shove, when someone actually wanted to fight, Cassius would find a way out. He'd talk his way out, or run. His friends knew it. His family knew it. Cassius knew it. That bicycle was different, though. On that bicycle, he felt powerful, confident, like he could take on the world. October 1954, a Saturday afternoon. Cassius and his friend Johnny Willis decide to ride their bikes to the Columbia Auditorium. There's a black business exposition going on. Free food, free entertainment. For two 12-year-old boys, it sounds like paradise. They ride across town, lock their bikes outside, spend the afternoon eating free ice cream and watching performances. Hours pass. The sun starts to set. Time to go home. They walk outside. Cassius's bike is gone. At first, Cassius thinks it's a joke. Maybe someone moved his bike. Maybe it's around the corner. He searches everywhere. Behind buildings, in alleys, nothing. Then reality hits. His bike, his beautiful, perfect, $60 bicycle, has been stolen. Cassius starts crying. Not just tears, full-blown sobbing. The kind of crying that comes from deep in your chest, from your soul. Johnny tries to comfort him. "It's just a bike, Cassius. Your daddy can get you another one." But Cassius knows better. His family doesn't have $60 for another bike. They barely have $60 for groceries. This isn't just about a bicycle. This is about everything that bicycle represented. Freedom, pride, hope, and now it's gone. But then something else kicks in. Something that will define Cassius Clay for the rest of his life. Anger. Pure, righteous, burning anger. "I'm gonna find whoever took my bike," he says, wiping his tears. "And I'm gonna whoop 'em good." Johnny looks at his friend. Skinny little Cassius, 89 pounds, never been in a real fight in his life. "Cassius, you don't even know how to fight." "I don't care. I'm gonna learn. And then I'm gonna find him." That's when Johnny remembers something. "My cousin told me there's a gym in the basement of the Columbia Auditorium. Police officer runs it. Teaches kids how to box." Cassius stops crying. "A gym?" "Yeah, right downstairs. Guy's name is Joe Martin." Cassius doesn't hesitate. He marches back into the building, finds the stairs to the basement, follows the sound of punching bags and jumping rope. And that's how he ends up bursting through the doors of the Columbia gym, tears on his face, fists clenched, shouting about his stolen bike. The gym is full of kids, mostly white kids, some black kids, all of them bigger than Cassius, all of them tougher looking. They stop what they're doing and stare at the skinny kid having a meltdown. Joe Martin is in the corner working with a teenage boxer. He's a big man, thick mustache, kind eyes but a no-nonsense attitude. He walks over to Cassius. "What's all this shouting about, son?" "Somebody stole my bike," Cassius says, still crying. "It was brand new, red and white Schwinn. Cost my daddy $60, and I'm gonna find whoever took it and whoop him good." The other kids in the gym start laughing. This skinny little kid talking about whooping somebody. But Joe Martin doesn't laugh. He sees something in Cassius's eyes, something beyond the tears and the anger, determination. "Well," Martin says calmly, "you better learn how to fight first." That's how it starts. Joe Martin doesn't promise to find Cassius's bicycle. He offers something better, a chance to do something about it. "You want to learn how to box?" Martin asks. Cassius nods, still sniffling. "It's not easy. It's not fun. It hurts. You'll get hit. You'll get knocked down. You'll want to quit 100 times." "I don't care," Cassius says. "I want to learn." Martin looks at this 89-pound kid. Skinny arms, no muscle, never thrown a punch in his life. But there's something about him, something in his eyes, a fire that Martin recognizes. "All right," Martin says. "But first you need to understand something. Boxing isn't about revenge. It's not about hurting people. It's about discipline, respect, hard work." Cassius nods eagerly. "And another thing," Martin continues, "you come to my gym. You follow my rules. No crying, no complaining, no quitting when things get tough." "Yes, sir." Martin hands Cassius a pair of gloves. They're huge on his small hands. "Let's see what you got." What Cassius has at first is nothing. He can't throw a proper punch, can't keep his hands up, can't move his feet. The heavy bag barely moves when he hits it. The other kids snicker. This skinny kid thinks he's going to be a boxer? But Martin sees something they don't. Cassius doesn't quit. Every day after school, he shows up, gets his gloves, works the bags, learns the footwork, takes his lumps. And every day he gets a little better. More importantly, he gets a little tougher. The first time Cassius spars with another kid, he gets his nose bloodied, starts crying. Martin pulls him aside. "You want to quit?" Cassius wipes his nose, looks at the blood on his hand. "No, sir." "Why not?" "Because I ain't found who stole my bike yet." Martin smiles. This kid still thinks boxing is about finding his bicycle. But Martin knows better. Boxing isn't going to help Cassius find his bike. Boxing is going to help Cassius find himself. Weeks pass. Then months. Cassius gets stronger, faster, more confident. But more importantly, he gets hungrier. Not for revenge anymore. For something bigger. One day, Martin is watching Cassius work the speed bag. The kid's got rhythm now. Timing. His hands are moving like lightning. "Cassius," Martin calls out. "Yes, sir?" "You still thinking about that bicycle?" Cassius stops punching. Thinks for a moment. "Not merely, Mr. Martin." "What are you thinking about?" Cassius grins. That famous Ali smile, even at 12 years old. "I'm thinking about being the greatest boxer who ever lived." 6 months later, Cassius Clay has his first amateur fight. His opponent is a kid named Ronnie O'Keefe. Bigger than Cassius, more experienced, favored to win. The fight is at the Columbia Auditorium, the same building where Cassius's bike was stolen. Joe Martin is in his corner. "Remember what I taught you," Martin says. "Keep your hands up, move your feet, and don't try to knock him out. Just box." The bell rings. Cassius comes out dancing, moving, jabbing. He's not the strongest kid in the ring, but he's the fastest. Round after round, he outboxes O'Keefe, hits and doesn't get hit, moves and counterpunches. By the third round, it's clear who's winning. When the final bell rings, Cassius's hand is raised in victory. His first win, his first taste of what it feels like to be a champion. In the crowd, Cassius Clay Sr. and Odessa are cheering. Their skinny little boy just won a boxing match. But the most important person in the crowd is Joe Martin, because Martin knows something that nobody else knows yet. He's just witnessed the birth of a legend. After the fight, a reporter approaches Martin. "That Clay kid looks pretty good. You think he's got a future in boxing?" Martin looks at Cassius, who's surrounded by friends and family, still wearing his boxing gloves, grinning from ear to ear. "That kid," Martin says, "he's going to be something special. Mark my words." The reporter writes it down, but he doesn't really believe it. How special can a 12-year-old kid from Louisville be? Very special, as it turns out. Over the next 6 years, Cassius Clay becomes the most dominant amateur boxer in the country. He wins 100 fights and loses only 5. He wins 6 Kentucky Golden Gloves titles, 2 National Golden Gloves titles, 2 National AAU titles. And in 1960, at 18 years old, he wins an Olympic gold medal in Rome. All because his bicycle got stolen. But here's the thing about that stolen bicycle. Cassius never found it. Never found out who took it. Never got his revenge. And you know what? It didn't matter. Because that bicycle wasn't really stolen. It was sacrificed. Sacrificed for something infinitely more valuable. A purpose. A calling. A destiny. Years later, when Muhammad Ali, that's what Cassius Clay became, was the most famous athlete in the world, a reporter asked him about that stolen bicycle. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if your bike hadn't been stolen?" Ali thought for a moment. "Man," he said, "I thank God every day for whoever stole that bike. Because if they hadn't, I never would have walked into that gym. I never would have met Joe Martin. I never would have learned how to box." "So you're grateful it was stolen?" "Grateful," Ali laughed. "I should send that thief a thank you card. He gave me my life." That's the power of perspective. What seemed like the worst thing that could happen to a 12-year-old boy, losing his most prized possession, turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to him. Because sometimes, what looks like a setback is actually a setup. Sometimes, what feels like an ending is actually a beginning. Sometimes, what seems like the worst thing becomes the best thing. So let me ask you something. What's your stolen bicycle? What's the thing that happened to you that felt like the end of the world? The disappointment that crushed you? The loss that broke your heart? The setback that made you want to give up? Because here's what I've learned from studying the lives of extraordinary people. Every champion has a stolen bicycle story. Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team. Oprah Winfrey was born into poverty and abuse. Steve Jobs got fired from the company he founded. At the time, these felt like disasters, failures, proof that they weren't good enough. But looking back, they were gifts. Gifts that forced them to dig deeper, to work harder, to become stronger than they ever thought possible. The question isn't whether bad things will happen to you. They will. The question is, what will you do when they do? Will you let them defeat you, or will you let them define you? Will you stay focused on what you lost, or will you start looking for what you might gain? Cassius Clay could have spent his whole life angry about that stolen bicycle. He could have let it make him bitter, resentful, defeated. Instead, he let it make him hungry, hungry to prove himself, hungry to become something more, hungry to show the world what he was capable of. That hunger led him to Joe Martin's gym. That gym led him to boxing. Boxing led him to the Olympics. The Olympics led him to the heavyweight championship. The championship led him to becoming Muhammad Ali, the most famous athlete who ever lived, all because someone stole his bicycle. Here's the truth that took me years to understand. Your greatest setback is often the setup for your greatest comeback, but only if you're willing to walk into the gym. Only if you're willing to put on the gloves. Only if you're willing to do the work. Cassius Clay didn't become Muhammad Ali overnight. It took 6 years of training, 6 years of getting hit, 6 years of getting back up. But it started with one decision, the decision to turn his pain into power, his loss into a lesson, his setback into a comeback. So I'll ask you again, what's your stolen bicycle? And more importantly, what are you going to do about it? Because somewhere out there, there's a gym waiting for you. There's a Joe Martin waiting to teach you. There's a champion waiting to be born. But first, you have to stop crying about what you lost and start fighting for what you can become. That's the lesson of the stolen bicycle. That's the lesson of Muhammad Ali. That's the lesson that can change your life if you let it.